Sorry about the cutoff there. We have to put this in another video. So let's just continue where we left off, segment addition. Let's have our situation. In segment addition, we have our 2 points and a big segment AC with B in the middle. So let's say AB has length 2 and BC has length 5. How do you think we should figure out the length of AC? Well, let's see. Well, how do we figure out AC? Well, one thing we know is that AB and BC don't overlap, so that helps out. So we can add them up, because if they don't overlap, we can just count from A to B and then B to C, as B is like the middle ground. A to B is 2 and B to C is 5. We add them up, we get the distance from A to C, which will be 7. So A to C is essentially the distance from AB to BC, which is what the segment addition postulate is. If we have a segment with a point in the middle, and the distance between the 2 points, so we have a segment with 2 points and a point in the middle, and we have the two distances between these 2 pairs. To find the whole distance, you can just add them up. Yeah. This is very helpful in a number line context, and also very helpful when you get math problems in your geometry textbook, because they'll just use that segment addition postulate for most of their problems. What would it be like? Let's give an example actually. We have our point. Let's say we live in Illinois, and we want to go all the way to Georgia, and we stop in the middle of Louisiana, okay? And the distance from Illinois to Louisiana is 763, and the distance between Louisiana and Georgia is 377, okay? So, what is the distance between Illinois and Georgia? Well, we can use our segment addition postulate here to determine that. So if we treat it as a segment with Illinois as one endpoint, Louisiana in the middle, and Georgia at the end, we can say that the distance between Illinois and Georgia is 763 plus 377. If we do the math, we get 1140 miles to go from Illinois to Georgia. Yeah, that's an example of how you can use the segment addition postulate. Okay. Next one, we have to understand the concept of a midpoint. What is a midpoint? So a midpoint, say mid means middle, and point is a point. So it must be a middle point of what? A segment. Because segments are the only things that are finite. So let's draw our segment A, Z, and its length is 100. So in order to find the midpoint, where would we have to put a point? We have to put a point M at the midpoint, and the midpoint will split it in two distances that are the same. So these 2 segments are congruent because they have the same length. That's an important thing to know. If you have 2 congruent segments, then their lengths are the same. So, what is a midpoint then? A midpoint is a point that divides a segment into 2 congruent pieces. So, let's use a different example. Let's say I have a number line starting from 0 to 552. Okay? So I need to find the midpoint, so where I can put it. So, what do? We have to divide it into 2 pieces that are the same. And it's between 0 and 552. So then we just take 552 and divide it into 2 congruent pieces. That would give us the length of the piece. So if we divide them, we would get 276. Pretty sure it's 276. So the length is 276. So the midpoint is 276. Because these two pieces are congruent. This is a midpoint. Hopefully that makes sense. So to recap, a midpoint is a point that divides a segment into two congruent pieces. Which congruent as in they're the same length. So a line, ray, or segment that passes through the midpoint is called a bisector. Called a bisector. Because it bisects the segment. Bisect as in to cut. To cut as in cutting into two congruent pieces. So that's a segment bisector. And these two would be congruent. Important note, this is the congruent side. It's a slash. Or if we have more congruent parts, we just put 2 slashes, or 3, or 4, or 5, or any amount of slashes to denote that they're congruent. So, what did we learn in this video? Or 2 videos, technically. We learned about segments and rays. Segments and rays. Rays have one endpoint, segments have none. Rays can be opposite, and segments can be divided into 2, which is called a midpoint. And it can be bisected with a bisector, and can be added, and that's kind of cool. And also, from the last video, I forgot to talk about an important vocabulary word about lines and planes. So this is just a recap of the old video. So 2 points that are on the same line are considered collinear. Okay? Co as in same, linear as in line. So these 2 points are collinear. Same logic can be applied with planes. If we have 2 points that are on the same plane, they're called coplanar. And then if we want to go dimension up, we can just put the co and the dimension. So let's have our 2 lines, 2 points. So we have a point C and D. And there's a line. RC and D coplanar? RC and D collinear? Well, it looks like D does not pass through that line, so it's not collinear. But if I add another point E, are C and E collinear? Yeah, they're collinear, they're on the same line. So, yeah. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Thank you for the support on the last video, it was very appreciated.